Hey everybody, so I wanted to share a little bit about worldviews and conflict. I love this course, and this course is not talked about much, but it is an awesome course. This course will cover philosophers and then their worldview, their ideology, and then how that got into literature and then into the biggest influence, which is pop culture. So after you study the philosophers and you spend some time studying some classic literature like Macbeth from Shakespeare or the Scarlet Letter from a biblical worldview with really great, not only do they break down the vocabulary, but they have really great study questions that are critical thinking questions. And then it gives your student the chance to also write essays. So it is pretty big on essays. It is scheduled for 3 days a week, but you could actually choose to do deeper readings and stretch it out to 5 days a week. It is pretty doable for doing it 3 days a week, and also the other days kind of gives them time to write or maybe refine their essays a bit. But the essays are pretty in-depth, and then here are some of the study questions in the study guide. And you do have vocabulary in throughout here. This is a scene from Macbeth that's kind of broken up some, and sometimes there'll be scripture references or reading, and you'll get to know these philosophers pretty well. And then there's even a fun game where there's a statement and you name that philosopher right here. So here's their statement, and then you list the philosopher. And then the way that it makes this fun is that the teen will then have to see how it is connected in pop cultures and certain movies. Like, what does The Lion King and Easter mysticism, how's that played out? And or the rock band Nirvana and nihilism. So you get to actually see how it's all woven within. And then the textbook is very easy, and I want to say easy, but it's very clear and understandable to read. They make it even easier to do so. I was fascinated to learn about some of these authors and the philosophers, and then seeing their imprint and their philosophy. I mean, everyone's really a philosopher. It's their worldview being played out. And so a question that I get a lot is, can this be counted as literature and philosophy? And yes, you can list it as philosophy or for literature. For one kid, I listed it as literature because that was their literature for the year, along with language lessons 9. So they were doing Pilgrim's Progress in that, and then they were doing this. So this became their literature. And then my other student is just really big into philosophy. So we just did this for philosophy, and they did the Great Christian Classics Volume 1 for their literature course. So I think it's very doable. We've really enjoyed it. My kids have enjoyed it. It's fun because we can play the game even as a family, like name this philosopher, or in Jurassic Park or Star Wars, what worldview or philosophy is being promoted here. So I think that that's why if a college-bound student was going to go to college, this would really prepare them, because they see these men as heroes, these authors, these philosophers, but we can see with biblical lenses why they fall short and why they fall short of the truth, and why in reality they have distorted our culture and the thinking that has become so prominent, like Karl Marx. He's also covered in here. So I would highly recommend this course for anyone, but particularly college-bound students. I think the work is there, the essays, the vocabulary, but outside of the academic, it's that spiritual enrichment that they're going to get learning from these guys who really hated God and had a very anti-biblical worldview, and seeing the difference and comparing them to people like Martin Luther. So if your kid is college bound, I would really recommend this course here so that they are prepared, not scared, to face a professor or fellow students, or be able to engage confidently through an apologetic standpoint, that they too are just as intellectual and understand, but they have a greater insight because they've learned it from the foundation of truth. So go ahead and check it out on the Masterbooks website. And if you have any questions, or if you've had an experience about this, we'd love to hear you share about that and help other moms and parents out there trying to decide what's the best fit or what year this course might be a great fit for, because I personally would do Foundations in Faith first and then move on to this. But it's not a prerequisite. I just think that getting a solid view on what we as Orthodox Christians believe, then going into the philosophies of men and comparing those would be a great way to equip your child. So thank you so much, and I'll see you soon.